When people think of South Florida, most people think about the beaches and palm trees, and I get it, we have a lot of nice beaches here. But what if I told you, or better yet, what if I showed you a whole other side of South Florida where wildlife rules? Living in South Florida the majority of my life, I always knew of the Everglades, but I never really knew much about it. All I know was they told me it was a big swamp with alligators. And that's all I needed to hear. I was sold. But now that I'm a little older, I do have some more questions about this swamp full of alligators. So last year during the pandemic, when everything shut down and everyone was advised to social distance, you know what I did? I went and did the ultimate social distance. I went deep into the glades. It was just me and the wildlife. It felt good. Now before we go any further, let's talk about what the Everglades is. The Glades is basically South Florida's big wet backyard. It's a slow-moving river of grass with a few different types of ecosystems that provide life for a variety of animals, most notably the Florida panther and the American alligator. One of the most common, yet most feared creatures you find out here is the alligators. Not that long ago, they were endangered species. But not no more. Now you see them everywhere. I've always been fascinated by alligators and the power they possess. Every time I see one, I get excited. I have a lot of respect for them. I know they're not to be played with, so I always keep my distance. But it's hard because I just want to pet them, especially the little babies. If you know where to look, you could find a relative of the alligator right here in the Glades. There is said to be only about 1,000 of these bad boys roaming South Florida. Say hello to my prehistoric friend, the American crocodile. This specific one was spotted at the southern tip of Florida. Doesn't it look like a dinosaur? Did you know that South Florida, basically the Everglades, is the only place in the world where crocodiles and alligators coexist? Now this next wildlife encounter was totally unexpected, as they usually are. Never did I think I would see one of these deadly creatures in the wild. It was kinda scary to think I could have stepped on this. One day my buddies and I were exploring a remote part of the Glades when all of a sudden we came face to face with a rattlesnake. It was there just chilling on the pathway, soaking in the last bit of sunlight. Luckily it was the smallest rattlesnake there is, a pygmy rattlesnake. They only grow to about 2 feet long, and yes, they're venomous, so I kept my distance. But man, it felt good to see a rattlesnake in the wild for the first time. Not everything in the Everglades is so dangerous and deadly. We also have a bunch of different species of birds, which I've been getting more familiar with lately. What about this one time I was deep in the glades exploring When I witnessed a feeding frenzy take place in a random lake, there were hundreds, possibly over 1,000 pelicans going crazy eating something in the water. This is one of the most bizarre things I've seen out here. As you can see, the water here is full of fish. In some places you'll see a ton of little minnows just casually hanging out with alligators. My favorite are these long skinny gars, which are really common out here. Another favorite of mine is the soft-shell turtle. I used to have one of these as a pet. They're the cutest turtles. They have long necks that can stretch out for over a foot, and their shells are soft. They're different from most turtles, that's what I like about them. This one appeared to be trying to dig a hole, which makes me think it's a pregnant female going to lay eggs. Let me not disturb it. The Glades is home to so many different animals. Almost every time I come, I encounter something new. The ultimate sighting out here would be a Florida panther. But unfortunately, there's only a couple hundred left in the wild, so chances of me seeing one is slim. But that doesn't stop me from looking. Now earlier I mentioned how the Everglades is a slow-moving river of grass. But now I want to explain a little more and how that affects us. So here in the Glades, water is everything. It's the lifeline for all the animals, plants, trees, and even people. Water is to the Glades what blood is to us. It's essential, and the way the water flows is real important. All the water that you see here in the Glades comes from the Kissimmee River in central Florida and Lake Okeechobee. From there it slowly makes its way down south to the Everglades and eventually into the Florida Bay. But unfortunately, when people started coming to Florida in the 1800s and 1900s, they started draining areas of the Glades for agriculture and to build communities. What they didn't realize is they were disrupting a whole ecosystem, and ultimately they shifted the natural flow of water, which affected the Glades tremendously. Eventually, the government stepped in and made moves to recreate the historic natural flow of water, which has definitely helped the Everglades. Had they not stepped in, the Glades would be in much worse shape right now. Not to mention the millions of us Floridians that rely on the Everglades for drinking water. Now when it comes to seasons in the Glades, we basically have two, the dry and the wet season. Both seasons have their perks. In the wet season, which is the summer, it rains a lot and it gets super hot and humid, which can be unbearable, especially during midday. But come late afternoon or evening, and this is when the sky puts on a show almost every single day. I call it sunset season. During this time of the year, the clouds get real busy, especially during sunset. All that summer heat and humidity make way for the most spectacular sunsets I've ever seen, and it happens every single year. So last year in the middle of the summer, I became obsessed with filming the sunsets out here. At some point, I was coming almost every single day for sunset, and you're about to see why. Now, if that isn't the most incredible time-lapse footage of the Everglades, I don't know what is. The other season we have here in the Glades is the dry season, which is from December to May. This is when it doesn't rain that often and the animals congregate around these water holes. If you're looking to view wildlife, this is the time to come.
Alright, so how do you get to the Everglades?
Well, if you're coming from Miami, you're going to come on A Street, also known as Tamiami Trail. You know you're in the right direction when you pass the Miccosukee Hotel and Casino.
Once you get into the Glades, there are many places you can pull over and enjoy the scenery. But let me tell you the best places I've found so far.
The first place I suggest you check out is Shark Valley. This is going to put you in proximity with nature. Bring your bike or rent a bike here and bring water, trust me. If you only have time to visit one spot in the Everglades, this is it. Next would be the Everglades National Park, which is down south by Homestead. This spot is massive. This is where I saw the crocodile and rattlesnake as well as a bunch of other wildlife. Go to the very end of the park, the flamingo area. You won't be disappointed. Third would be Loop Road. This is a nice scenic stretch that takes you through a few different Everglades ecosystems as well as a community. There's a lot of interesting history on this road and it's free to come. I suggest you do your research before you visit. There's some interesting tales to Loop Road. The next and last recommendation I have for you might just be the best. I feel like this is the ultimate way to experience the Glades. Man, I had a blast with the down-to-earth folks from airboatindeverglades.com. They showed me a whole new perspective of the Glades. Without an airboat, it'd be damn near impossible to explore these grounds. Highly recommended. Every time I visit the Everglades, I feel as if I'm in another time period or another planet. It's nice to have this as a reminder to what the majority of South Florida once looked like. This place really is a gem. It's a time capsule. It's been here forever, and it's definitely worth preserving, every inch of it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Matt Geo. There's so much more to be said of the Everglades. I'm barely scratching the surface in today's episode, but I encourage everyone to come out here to the Glades. It's a great place to come, clear your mind and relax. Just make sure you bring some water and mosquito repellent. All right, I gotta go. The mosquitoes are killing me. See you in the next episode.